chances are you've already seen a tornado at some point in your life, whether up close or from a distance, especially if you live in the US. And if not, you've definitely seen one on TV, either on the news or in movies. Tornadoes are some of the most dangerous weather events out there, something most people try to avoid, unless you're a storm chaser, of course. So that got us thinking, what would it actually be like to be right in the middle of a tornado? And for that, I'm calling on my favorite test subject, Gustave. Today, we're heading to the heart of the US, and that's not a random choice. This is a place with more tornadoes than anywhere else in the world. Oh, and Gustave, I almost forgot to mention, you're going to be checking out some massive cyclones. Well, when I say checking out, I actually mean you'll be right in the middle of them. But don't worry, Gustave, we'll ease into it. We'll start with some smaller tornadoes and gradually work our way up, all the way to the most powerful tornado of all time. So what does it feel like to have a monster tornado chasing you? And does Gustave even stand a chance of making it out alive? Will everything be completely wiped out? We are answering all these questions today with our big topic. What is it really like to be inside a tornado? Alright, let's start things off easy with a little EF0 tornado to warm up. EF stands for Enhanced Fujita, which is just the scale used to measure tornado strength, from EF0, the weakest, all the way to EF5, absolute destruction. But don't be fooled, even an EF0 can pack a serious punch with wind speeds hitting about 70 miles per hour or 110 kilometers per hour. Before we dive into the tornadoes, let's take a quick look at wind speeds in general because they vary a lot depending on where you are in the US and the time of year. For example, in the Great Plains, the Midwest, and some coastal areas, the winds tend to be stronger on average. On the other hand, mountainous regions and big cities often have weaker winds because of obstacles blocking the airflow. And of course, the season matters too. Spring and fall tend to be the windiest times of the year in many parts of the country, but under normal conditions, we're usually talking about wind speeds of just 20 to 30 miles per hour, so about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Nothing extreme. Hey Gustave, how you holding up so far? Be careful though, Gustave. Winds this strong can already cause injuries if you're not paying attention. It's not exactly the apocalypse, but it's enough to do some real damage, like knocking down chimneys, street signs, and TV antennas. Basically, anything flimsy that the wind can grab onto is at risk. And even though it's not super common, some trees can fall, especially if their roots are shallow and they're not already dead. In short, winds like this can already be deadly if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. One big tree branch to the face, and it's game over. So yeah, take cover, Gustave. Just a friendly suggestion, because if you don't survive this, we won't be able to send you into the big tornado later, and that would be a real shame. Alright, it's time to crank things up a notch. Welcome to the EF1 tornado. This one's going to blast through at 100 miles per hour or 160 kilometers per hour. Ever stuck your hand out of the car window while speeding down the highway? Yeah, well, imagine that, but way stronger. Some places have it way worse than others when it comes to extreme weather. For example, back in 1999, France was hit by a massive storm with winds at the same speed as an EF1 tornado. Just to be clear though, a storm and a tornado are not the same thing. In France, tornadoes are usually pretty weak and rare, only about 50 per year. Compare that to the United States, where they get slammed by around 1,200 tornadoes every year. At these speeds, the noise is insane. Some birds can't even fly because of how loud and turbulent it gets. To wrap up our little France detour, that 1999 storm took down over 140,000 trees just in the Paris region, and in just 2 days, France lost about 10% of its trees. Here, take a look at what the Chateau de Versailles Park looked like after that storm. But back in the US, poor Gustave is having a rough time. He's stuck inside his house, listening to the storm rage outside, roof tiles slamming and getting ripped off one by one.
Huh?
Power outages, yeah, that's pretty common in these conditions, especially when power lines are old or poorly maintained. Oh, and to make things worse, the wind can easily break windows too. So let's recap. Gustave's house now has a half-destroyed roof, shattered windows, and no electricity. Hang in there, Gustave. With those broken windows, it's about to get really cold. The good news? EF1 tornadoes don't last long. Gustave's tornado lasted for only about an hour and actually passed over his house in just a few minutes. Because yeah, tornadoes move, unlike storms, which can batter houses for hours long enough that weaker houses can collapse. Now, we're cranking it up with a tornado blowing at around 155 miles per hour or 250 kilometers per hour. So you've probably noticed we've jumped straight from an EF1 tornado to an EF3. I wanted to speed things up and see if our dear Gustave is gonna get swept away or not. If you're wondering why the US is so sensitive to tornadoes, it's all because of the country's geography. First off, tornadoes form in the plains, and those areas are super flat. And to have a tornado, you also need a big storm. And guess what? Those regions get tons of storms, especially in the summer. Now, I'll admit, tornado formation is a very complex phenomenon, but I'll try to describe tornado formation in the simplest way possible. So, step 1, the storm creates vertical winds that rise up, and that's what forms the dark storm cloud. Step 2, the geography of these regions also creates sideways winds. When these vertical and horizontal winds meet and combine, the storm cloud starts spinning. This spinning cloud is called a mesocyclone. And when you see one of those, you know things are starting to get dangerous, but we're still missing the most important ingredients. For now, we're safe because the cloud is above us. But sometimes that cloud cools down super quickly because of the rain, and the cold air falls down. This creates a downward wind that literally brings the vortex right at you. And that's step 3. Now we've got all the ingredients for a cloud that could literally kill you. And our friend Gustave is about to find that out. There it is, a tornado's forming. The best thing to do to survive? Get the heck out of there. And if you're too close, the problem is you're stuck in the storm and you can't see anything because of the rain, just like Gustave. And tornadoes can move super fast. At the absolute fastest, they can reach 55 miles per hour or 90 kilometers per hour, but the average speed is more like 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. I'm not talking about the wind speed, by the way, but the speed of the tornado itself, like how fast you're driving a car. And so I'm talking how fast you'll need to run if it's heading straight for you. Gustave, it's heading right at you. Way too late to run now. The best move is to find a spot with no trees or power lines around. You don't want to get crushed. And ideally, if you're in a car, you should lean forward because the windows are going to break from all the debris flying around and you don't want any of that hitting you in the head. I won't lie, I'm a bit worried because EF3 tornadoes can bring down lightweight buildings, derail trains, and even lift or move trucks. Apparently, Gustave got lucky because there was a solid building nearby that acted as a windbreak. The odds of his car staying upright were slim, but miraculously, he got out without a scratch. But he's not out of the woods yet, and we're about to crank it up another notch. Alright, we're way past the point of messing around now. This is an EF4 tornado, and it looks like this. Inside that monster, winds blasting at 190 miles per hour or 300 kilometers per hour. And just look at how fast the tornado itself is moving. You might think the person filming this is completely insane, but actually not so much. See how the tornado is moving left to right? That's a good sign. If it's shifting sideways, odds are it's not coming straight for you. But enough theory. Let's send this thing straight to Gustave's hotel. I'll be real with you, his chances of survival are not looking great. EF4s can flatten solid, well-built houses like they're made of paper. Cars can be picked up and thrown like toys, and at those wind speeds, any loose object turns into a deadly projectile flying at hundreds of kilometers or miles per hour. In this case, what are the only things that might still be standing? Super solid buildings. But even then, there would still be a lot of damage. Shattered windows, ripped off gutters, missing chimneys, and roofs completely destroyed. All right. Moment of truth. Gustave, you still alive? Look at this little cheater. He ran for cover in an underground storm shelter, just like the ones you find all over the middle of the US. Smart move though. Honestly, it's the only real way to stay safe in a tornado like this. Gustave had the right reflex, but if you don't have a basement, what's your plan B? Best to get to a room without windows and on the ground floor. Because here's the thing, windows are usually the first thing to go, and when they shatter, the air pressure inside builds up until it literally blows the roof off, just like a champagne cork. That's why you want to be as far from the roof roof as possible and as close to the ground as you can get. And one last pro tip, get under a solid table just in case part of your house comes crashing down. And one more pro tip, in the US, if you don't have a basement, they usually recommend taking shelter in a bathtub, since bathrooms usually don't have windows and the plumbing anchors the tub to the ground. Even better, grab a mattress to pull over you so that heavy debris won't hurt you as badly. Alright, Gustave, now that we've covered all the safety tips, it's time for the most powerful tornado of all time. And this time, no hiding in a shelter. You hear that siren? Well, it went off near the town of Renaud, Oklahoma on May 31st, 2013. If you find that sound freaky, that's the point. It's the warning sound to alert people that a tornado is about to hit. And guess what? There are two types of reactions. First, you've got the reasonable folks who are like, time to bunker down. Then there's the storm chasers who get as close as possible to the storm to see it up close, taking photos, filming it, even measuring the wind speeds. On this fine May day in 2013, Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Jung went with option 2. As passionate weather nerds, they went storm chasing. So we figured, why not have Gustave tag along with them to relive this crazy storm adventure? Quickly, our daredevil crew noticed that this tornado was different, starting with its size. Usually tornadoes are a few hundred meters or yards wide, but this one was a huge 2.6 miles or 4.2 kilometers wide. Pretty massive. Another thing that made it crazy, its insane wind speeds of 300 miles per hour or 475 kilometers per hour. Oh, and on top of that, it was moving fast at 55 miles per hour or 90 kilometers per hour. That's super quick. So yeah, a fast, violent, and huge tornado. That's 3 really good reasons to stay far away, but guess what? That's not what our storm chaser team decided to do. Unfortunately, they got too close to the storm. Check out the monster. As experts, they knew tornadoes were unpredictable, but caught up in the thrill of the chase, they forgot just how unpredictable, and that's what put them in danger. At one point, the tornado suddenly changed direction and headed straight for them. In the animation, you can see the team getting caught up in it, and unfortunately, that's Gustave's team. I'm sorry to tell you, but the tornado picked up their car and tossed it in the air, and all 4 of the passengers, including Gustave, died when it came back down. Here's the real state of the storm chaser's car after it was thrown by the tornado. EF5 tornadoes are extremely violent. They can send cars flying hundreds of meters or tear houses right off of their foundations. That said, there's this rumor that nothing survives an EF5 tornado, but that's totally exaggerated. The Renaud tornado killed only 8 people and left 151 injured. But to be fair, it did stop just short of Oklahoma City. If it would have hit the big city, the death toll could have been much worse. So with a little common sense and/or luck, you can usually stay safe during a tornado, even if it's one of the worst ones in the world. In situations like Gustave's, they're more of an exception than the norm. By the way, we're bringing him back to life. After all, who else is gonna go through all these wild experiments for us? We're definitely gonna meet him again sometime soon.